Hello everyone, it's the Dark Spider David Show. I have a slight little ritual when it comes to going to the movies almost every single year. The majority of the time I go to just my regular movie theater here in my local area. And when I go see the movies, I really like to give a level of prestige to the movie that I'm seeing. So if it's like a smaller tier movie that's not necessarily day one or even week one, then I see it in a regular format. But our local theater is a Cinemark chain, and it has Cinemark XD, which is a bigger screen, stadiums like seating, surround sound, all the works. And lately they've gotten into the habit of putting out movies that normally get the 3D stamped onto it, but now they're actually going forward with 2D versions of that large format. So I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So whenever a big movie comes out that I definitely am going to see day one and the option is available, normally I see it in Cinemark XD. But then we go a step above that has the ultimate level of prestige for me, and I save it for literally about once or twice a year, twice at the most, maybe 3 times. I think there's been a couple of years where I've done it 3 times, and that's only because we just had that good of a year for movies in terms of spectacle and whatnot. But we're talking about IMAX. IMAX is a very enjoyable experience, and it's one that I think is kind of rising a little bit when it comes to its ticket sales and whatnot, and that's because I feel like they're doing something strategic that I think is very welcome. Because for a good while, I don't know if you guys remember, but IMAX was doing this thing where almost every single one of their showings would have to be in 3D for whatever movie it is that we're showing. If it had some kind of 3D attachment to it, 3D conversion, IMAX had to do it in 3D, and that was awfully frustrating. But lately, and even the person who's in charge, the CEO of IMAX, came forward saying, yeah, we're going to start doing this a little bit more frequently. They're showing 2D format versions of IMAX movies, and more people are gravitating towards that because they don't want the 3D sometimes, especially for some of these live action movies that have the terrible 3D, and they're like, no, but they still want to see it in IMAX because they got the 80-foot tall screen with the big ass speakers surrounding them that just crank up the bass, the perfect crystal clear quality to the image and the seating and all that. It's just like a perfect atmosphere for humongous movie lovers. But when exactly does the filmmaking, or in this case television industry, kind of cross the line to transforming IMAX somewhat into a very flashy and very unnecessary gimmick? Enter Marvel's Inhumans. One of the big draws, or at least what they're hoping is going to be a draw, is that the first, I think, episode or 2 episodes, I can't remember if it was just the 1 episode, 2 episodes, I think it's just the 1. The first episode of Marvel's Inhuman series, which is only going to be like about 8 weeks or something like that, 8 episodes, maybe it's 10, I don't know, I can't remember, but it's between 8 or 10, something like that. They're going to release, actually they already did so, they released the first episode this past September 1st in IMAX theaters for a limited engagement. And that's because they filmed the TV show with IMAX cameras. And that's one of the biggest draws that they're trying to get people to come watch this, is because they filmed it in IMAX cameras. So whenever something gets filmed with an IMAX camera, it's different than just a regular film being ported over to an IMAX movie format. Because when they do that, even though you go see the movie and it is technically on a bigger screen than most, you still got like black bars at the top and the bottom because that movie was not filmed in IMAX, so it's not going to fill up the entire image. You're just going to have it fill out left and right, but not top to bottom. So you don't get necessarily the full-on experience. Case in point would have to be not the Amazing Spider-Man, but SpiderMan Homecoming. Sorry, that was blasphemy. SpiderMan Homecoming. I went and saw that in IMAX, but it didn't fill up the entire screen because it wasn't filmed in that way. You know what was filmed in that way that was just a breathtaking experience? Dunkirk. When a movie gets filmed with not only an IMAX camera digitally, but even better, a IMAX camera that still manages to print on film, or in this case 70mm film, then you get scenarios like Dunkirk, where when you go see the movie, the entire screen just fills up and it's almost like it's swallowing you in to the experience because of how big that screen is. And this time it's actually being filled up to every single pixel or inch of that screen, that is just becomes much more of an immersive experience. But of course, all of that can be completely done in vain if your story and if the content that you're filming doesn't service the IMAX the same way IMAX can service the story. And that's what Christopher Nolan often tries to do whenever he shoots either segments of his movies in IMAX, or in the case with Dunkirk, the entire movie in IMAX. He, along with an awful lot of the cast members, would often remark saying that IMAX was the way to go with this movie because of the experience of war, of how he wanted to make the audience feel like they're part with the crew that's trying to get out of the beach of Dunkirk. They wanted them to have a similar experience. That's why they wanted to go with IMAX, not only for the visual clarity and also the opening up of the image to be able to be projected on screen, along with the beautiful cinematography, but also the sound design. Mark my words, Dunkirk is going to get nominated for a variety of technical awards from cinematography, sound design, and sound mixing. And IMAX also favors sound when it comes to the speakers, the volume, the way that the acoustics are all set up with the pads to make sure that all the sound gets retained inside the room perfectly. Dunkirk was a way to do it right because they wanted to use the story to make sure that the IMAX experience was awesome, while at the same time making sure that the IMAX experience also amplified the story and the experience that you're dealing with these characters in this situation that's ultimately shitty. With Marvel's Inhumans, that may not necessarily work. Now, I will admit I have not seen the show. I can't necessarily justify paying $15 to go see this in IMAX when I know that in about 3 weeks it's going to premiere on Freeform, ABC, whatever the fuck, usually around the same time slot as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would. And even though it's filmed with IMAX cameras, I can promptly tell you that from the look of those trailers and the television spots and whatever else that I have seen from the show so far, it does not matter because it still looks like a regular TV show. I can barely notice any kind of difference between this and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And when you do that and you don't give something like IMAX a reason to kind of exist within your project or your product or whatever, then it becomes transparent as a gimmick. Even if it is a gimmick, no matter what the circumstances, you can't, it's gonna sound manipulative, but you can't let your audience know that it is a gimmick. So if you do something in 3D or in IMAX, in this case a television show that has no business being filmed in IMAX, then there needs to be a reason for why it's filmed in IMAX. And so far, nothing compelling enough is being shown with the Inhumans for me to go, yes, I will definitely watch this in IMAX. I'm still looking forward to checking it out in the smaller screen when that time comes around, even though some earlier reviews is already starting to jade me a little bit, but I'm still going to be giving it a chance. I'm actually still going to be doing a review on Inhumans, but are they really worthy of being in an IMAX type of format? And so far, the answer is no. I can't really bring myself to be spending that kind of money, and that's what kind of scares me. And that's the one point of this whole video, is that you can't let IMAX kind of dictate you wanting to charge people for something that doesn't require IMAX. It's the similar thing with 3D. And look at 3D. I honestly, I mark my words, I wouldn't be that much surprised if little by little more theaters start to kind of follow suit with what Cinemark is doing and start to do these XD, IMAX, 2D versions of movies, and 3D versions of movies start to kind of start to minimize more and more as time progresses. I can't remember the last time I saw a TV spot where a announcer, you know, the narration guy, the guy with the voice, says, now in 3D. Remember back in 2011 where almost everything had 3D at the end of it, at the end of the trailer, in 3D, in 3D. I remember Thor, it says right there, in 3D, 3D, and now we barely even hear the guy say 3D. All he says is the rating, the day that the movie comes out, boom, you're done, and you're there. And that's because an awful lot of theaters are recognizing where the money is at and where it isn't. And IMAX, I don't want anything to happen to IMAX if creators, whether it be in the movie department or television department, start to mishandle it. Because I truly love IMAX. And Christopher Nolan is one of the proponents to be keeping it alive, but I don't want Inhumans to be an example of people that can take the format and abuse it. And then people are going to stop wanting to go pay for IMAX. And then that shit dies. Because that will be a very sad day. So if you guys are humongous fans of the IMAX format, let me know in the comments what was your guys' favorite IMAX experience. Mine this year so far is Dunkirk. I've had plenty of other moments where the IMAX was awesome. I remember watching Guardians of the Galaxy and they took advantage of it. And so many moments I would flinch with the 3D because it actually felt right with the atmosphere. But then other movies, the 3D is just a complete unnecessity. non-necessity. That's what I meant to say. So I want to hear from your guys' point of view. Do you think that IMAX has the potential to be abused or be kept alive? And do you think that it's a format that should stick around for the rest of time within the movie industry? Let me know your guys' feedback in the comments below. Make sure you like and share the video. And don't forget to stay tuned for future videos coming soon. These actors that are brimming with talent are turned into pieces of wood. The script even tries to give them some witty banter, and yet, because of how monotone they are, it just doesn't work.
Tell me about your dream.
Emote, you left testicle, emote.